Good day, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a huge update for Social Security changes and the next two stimulus packages. There are rumors that Democrats are already working for a fifth stimulus check in 2022. Of course, all of this is happening as Democrats are working on the current stimulus package, which could include a fourth round of stimulus checks and a $1,000 stimulus check for seniors. Go ahead and subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. Okay, so before we talk about the potential for a fourth round of stimulus checks, which is what's currently being talked about now in the news, let's do a quick recap on why exactly we are going to have more stimulus checks, most likely. Now, see, economists have shown that inflation continues to get worse, and it's lasting a lot longer than President Biden and the White House thought it would. Now, the silver lining of this is that the COLA adjustment is going to be 5.9%, and this is based off of inflation. So although things continue to get more expensive, the silver lining here is that the COLA increase is going to be the biggest it's been in about 40 years. Things becoming more expensive is never good news, and when your food is going up, your rent is going up, your transportation is going up, things just become more and more difficult, especially for seniors who are on a fixed income and those who are on SSI and SSDI who are on a fixed income as well. Now, let me know in the comments, have you noticed that groceries are getting more expensive? Have you noticed that things that you buy generally are getting more expensive, like houseware supplies, transportation costs, things like that? Are these things personally affecting you? Well, the White House recognizes this, and this is one of the main reasons why we do expect to have a fourth round of stimulus checks. Bernie Sanders is pushing for a $1,000 stimulus check for seniors, and now we have new updates that Democrats are already contemplating a fifth round of stimulus checks in 2022, and I've talked about it over and over on this channel. Democrats have realized that passing stimulus checks helps win elections. And in just about a year, we have a 2022 midterm elections, at which point seats in the House and seats in the Senate will be up for re-election. And the Democrats have such a slim majority in both chambers that they can only afford to lose a couple of seats without losing their majority in both chambers. Now, because of this, Democrats are expected to push for a fifth round of stimulus checks in 2022, especially if inflation continues to get worse. Now, this article is titled "Consumer Prices Jump Again, Presenting a Dilemma for Washington." Consumer Price Index data from the Labor Department showed that prices kept climbing in September as supply chain snarls and rising rents fueled rapid inflation. Now, the CPI is essentially synonymous for inflation, okay? That is the formula they use to track inflation and compare it year over year and month over month. Now, in September, inflation climbed to a 5.4% increase in prices compared to September of last year, and was also slightly more than it was in August, which was 5.3% compared to last year. It also increased from August to September by 0.4%. Now, this is really bad news for the White House because President Biden and the White House had said for months that they believed that this inflation would be 6 months, maybe a year at most, and now we're 18 months into this pandemic, and the inflation is showing no signs of slowing down. Again, this is one of the main reasons why we do expect to have more stimulus. So the silver lining here is although things continue to get more expensive, it is pushing Congress and the White House to try and approve more stimulus. And again, it also led to a 5.9% COLA adjustment for 2022. Now, Bernie Sanders continues to push for a $1,000 stimulus check for seniors, and we also expect this to be extended to those who are on SSI and SSDI as well. Now, he's trying to include this in the American Families Plan, which Democrats have promised to try and get done by the end of October, but a more realistic deadline is December 3rd, because that is when the debt ceiling crisis has to be handled as well. So December 3rd is more of a realistic deadline for that stimulus package. And again, Bernie Sanders is trying to include that $1,000 stimulus check for seniors. And guys, let me know if a $1,000 stimulus check would help you. Now, in my opinion, it should have been a $2,000 stimulus check for seniors, but let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. You know, seniors have been hurt the most throughout this pandemic, as well as those who are on SSI and SSDI. I mean, guys, if our country cannot take care of its seniors and cannot take care of its disabled, then I don't understand why Congress continues to promise to take care of its seniors. I mean, President Biden campaigned on raising Social Security benefits. He campaigned on raising SSI and SSDI. And here we are, about 10 months into his presidency, and we still do not have the increases. But this $1,000 stimulus check would go a long way in getting that done. Then we have Democrats pushing for a $2,000 stimulus check in general as a fourth round of checks. And of course, now we have rumors of a fifth round of stimulus checks. This article is titled, Democrats are already floating another social spending bill, aka stimulus package, to put Republicans on the spot on popular benefit expansions before the 2022 elections. Basically the same tactics they used in Georgia to win those 2 Senate seats in January. Remember, Democrats promised a third round of stimulus checks. Then Democrats won both of those Senate seats in Georgia. Then they delivered a third round of $1,400 stimulus checks. Guys, that has been shown to work. Governor Newsom in California, he was up for re-election last month as well. He approved actually a fourth and even fifth stimulus check in California. Yes, California has had 5 stimulus checks, and then he won that election. So it's been shown stimulus checks work. Now, President Biden's polls were the highest right after they did the third round of stimulus checks. Same thing with Governor Newsom in California. His polls were looking really, really bad. Then he approved the fifth stimulus check, and his polls shot through the roof, and he easily won the election in California. See, so Democrats have taken note that passing stimulus checks work. And it's not just something that economists think will happen. There are actually some insider sources showing that some Democrats in the House are already bringing up this idea of doing a fifth round of stimulus checks. So yes, it is a really realistic thing, and new checks could be sent out not only in December, but next year as well. Now, currently, Democrats are negotiating this next stimulus package, which could have the fourth round of stimulus checks, but they are actually on vacation, of course. Nothing but vacations for Congress, am I right? But right now, their main focus is twofold: to get the stimulus packages done and to deal with inflation. Now, one reason inflation continues to be bad is because supply chains are bottlenecked and there is a large demand as the economy continues to reopen and a small supply as supply chains are not able to deliver as much as they usually do, as supply chains are slow to get back up and running after completely shutting down due to the lockdowns. Now, the White House has addressed inflation, and they actually just held a press conference discussing how they're going to control inflation, how they're going to help open up the supply chains to try and increase supply, which will bring down costs for consumers, as well as what's happening with the physical infrastructure stimulus and the American Family Stimulus Plan. They even went on to give their thoughts on your holiday packages and whether or not they're going to be delivered on time, because guys, with supply chains being backed up, the best thing you can do is order your Christmas gifts now, because there's a good chance they're going to be delayed. But again, inflation, supply chain issues, all of this is tied in with stimulus, because the more inflation goes up, the more Democrats are going to be forced to approve more stimulus and hopefully increase Social Security benefits as well. So let's take a look, see exactly what Jen Psaki had to say, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
So I would say, for average people sitting at home, they're not focused just on the port. Of course they are. They're focused on getting their goods, but they're focused on the cost of goods. They're focused on how much meat costs. They're focused on what their checkbook looks like. And we've been working to address each of those issues in the supply chain from the beginning of this administration. So I just wanted to recap just a few of the announcements made today on supply chains. It's a huge announcement, so I wanted to make sure everybody was following it very closely. Thanks to the President's executive order in February, the launch of the Supply Chain Disruptions Task Force in June, and the appointment of a dedicated port envoy in August, public and private sector leaders took another important step in coming together today to speed up the shipment of goods throughout the country by moving towards 24/7 operations. Today, the Port of Los Angeles is expanding to 24/7 operations, which means it has nearly doubled the hours that cargo will be able to move out of its docks. This follows the same commitment from the Port of Long Beach a few weeks ago. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union has announced its members will work those extra shifts, adding needed capacity to clear existing backlogs. Large companies are announcing they will use those expanded hours to move more cargo off the docks so ships can come to shore faster. Walmart, UPS, FedEx, Samsung, Home Depot, and Target are using more off-peak and nighttime hours to increase throughput. These commitments will move more goods faster, including toys, just in case you were wondering, appliances, my kids are, and furniture that Americans purchased online or at their local small businesses, and parts that are sent to U.S. factories for our workers to assemble into products, which will strengthen the resiliency of our supply chains. It was inevitable, as we've talked about a bit in here, that a lot of our economic challenges, that there would be economic challenges coming out of the pandemic. That is why President Biden has been just as focused on this as he has on the other challenges which he addressed in the American Rescue Plan. These commitments are critical, and obviously we're going to continue to build on it from here.
Two quick subjects. First, with today's consumer prices report and President Biden's pending choice about leadership of the Federal Reserve, how patient is this administration with inflation consistently running above the Fed's 2% target?
Well, as you know, Josh, from following this closely, we obviously defer to the Federal Reserve and their projections and official targets, which they make regularly. I would note that we've seen a decrease over the course of time, and that is still evident if you look month to month with the data that came out this morning. So between the second quarter and third quarter of this year, monthly inflation increases have actually decelerated by 50%. And just to give you more specific data points, it was around 0.8%, and then it went down to 0.4%, hence 50%. So we think this decrease reflects the view of the Federal Reserve, continues to be, and many Wall Street forecasters, which continue to project that inflation is expected to continue to decelerate in 2022 and beyond as we come out of the pandemic. So it's not about patience to us. We certainly understood and knew that when the president was coming into office, and he was coming in at a time where we needed to turn the economy back on, where he was coming in at a time where unemployment was high, where wages were down, demand was down, which, as you know, once you build up, when demand increases, that can result in an increase in prices. That over time, as the economy is turning back on, we'd see some of these transitory effects. That's what's been predicted. That's what we have been planning for, and of course, next year we expect it to come down as outside forecasters are projecting.
Gotcha. Secondly, Virginia gubernatorial candidate Terry McAuliffe told AP that he was frustrated by the delay in passing infrastructure, saying, quote, they all got to get their act together and vote. What does President Biden believe he can do to make talks move faster and show verifiable progress for Democrats who are seeking office right now?
Well, time is not unlimited, Josh, and certainly the president and our entire senior team is continuing to press all members about the need to move forward and to find a way to unify around a package that can deliver results to the American people. It is certainly notable that, of course, former Governor McAuliffe may or may not, he has an election coming up, and so his timeline may be a little pressed by that. Doesn't take an outside political analyst to tell you that, but certainly the president would like to move forward. He's pressing members to move forward. He's been very engaged over the last several days, as he has been throughout, as have members of our senior team, and as I said at the outset, time is not unlimited.
Then on the supply chain issue, Secretary Buttigieg is saying that there may be challenges for last-minute shoppers. Among them, Secretary Yellen says there could be isolated shortages of goods in the coming months. So can you give us a realistic breakdown of what Americans could be facing on these shortages come the holiday season? What are we talking about?
For shipment of goods, which I assume is what you're asking
Yes.
about. So the reason that the president has been working so hard for months, long before the last few weeks, to address supply chain issues is because he knew they were multifaceted and that they were impacting a lot of different industries. I know you're asking about shipments and the shipment and movement of goods. And obviously the announcement today related to the ports is a reflection of action taken by the president, by this administration to have an immediate impact. Obviously, there's more that we will continue to press to be done as we're looking to increase the shipment of goods moving more quickly. That's one of the bottlenecks in the supply chain that will help address those concerns people have. Look, I can't make a prediction for you that we're going to solve every issue tomorrow and next week. We're not. We're coming out of an economic crisis caused by a pandemic, but what we are doing is working to using every tool at our disposal to ease the impact on the American people, ease the impact on families as we look to the holidays, but certainly beyond that.
Should Americans expect that this will get worse before it gets better?
I'm not going to make a prediction of that from here. We know there are a number of issues that impact the supply chain, and I don't want to make a prediction because it's not just one issue. Certainly, increasing the capacity at ports, and increasing the number of hours will have a positive impact. There's no question about that. But there are other issues that impact the global supply chain, including the pandemic, something that we are working 24 hours a day to help address around the world. That's impacted manufacturing in some countries, manufacturing of goods in some places, and reducing the supply in some places. That's one of the factors too. We're also working to address that. It's not just one issue, but certainly we're going to use every lever at our disposal to address it, to make it, to address the bottlenecks as quickly as we can. Go ahead.
Let me ask that a slightly similar but different way.
Sure.
Based on everything being announced today,
Yeah.
can this administration guarantee?
We are not the Postal Service or UPS or FedEx. We cannot guarantee. What we can do is use every lever at the federal government disposal to reduce delays, to ensure that we are addressing bottlenecks in the system, including ports and the need for them to be open longer hours so that goods can arrive. And we can continue to press not only workers and unions, but also companies to take as many steps as they can to reduce these delays.
And on the company's aspect of this, there's just a few lines about what exactly Walmart is committing to today. They're increasing use of nighttime hours significantly in projects. They could increase their throughput by as much as 50% in the next several weeks. This is a company that was frequently maligned during the Democratic presidential primary is paying workers pretty bad wages in the view of those that were running. Did the administration seek any assurances from Walmart that these changes won't affect their store workers, or that there might be some kind of either pay raise or other labor assurances for those that are going to have to work these extra hours?
I think you're very familiar, Ed, with where the president stands on the minimum wage. The fact that it's long overdue to increase the minimum wage, something that he has been quite vocal about for a range of companies. It is also true that we recognize that families, people across the country, are purchasing, whether they're toys or gifts or just household goods, from a range of suppliers, including Walmart, and we are working to ease the burden on them at the same time. But we are not taking our foot off the gas pedal of pressing for an increase in the minimum wage and for companies to do. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. You guys have had this task force since June. There was the executive order back in February. You've been talking about how the president's been on top of this for months, but it seemed to get a lot worse before it's gotten better. And often pointing to the pandemic as being a contributing factor. We've been in the pandemic for a year and a half now. So why did it take until today to get these kinds of commitments that we're seeing from the various groups that are here with the president today?
Well, I will say that we have had, maybe everybody wasn't here for this, but we have had the chairs of our supply chain task force in here at least twice to provide updates on the work that has been ongoing under this administration. One of those issues has certainly been ensuring that there aren't bottlenecks at ports, but there are a lot of other issues that we've been working to address in the global supply chain. One of them has certainly been the increase in the vulnerabilities in our food system, and something that we've seen impact some communities across the country and impact the price of goods sometimes when people go to the grocery store. That's one of the reasons the president pressed for more competition, why Secretary Vilsack has been focused on this as one of his primary issues, one of the reasons we announced the Food Supply Chain Loan Guarantee Program. And I would certainly say that over the course of the last several months, when people go to the grocery store and they're trying to buy a pound or 2 pounds, 5 pounds, however big their family is, of meat, that's an issue that has been impacting them nearly every single day. We also know that there are issues in the supply chain as it relates to housing and the cost of housing across the country. That's one of the reasons the president has been so focused and the supply chain task force has been focused, and there's money also in some of his proposals he signed into law to address that issue, to reduce the cost of lumber and make sure that that is available so that new houses can be built and we can address the housing shortage and address housing prices. So I would say for average people sitting at home, they're not focused just on the port. Of course they are. They're focused on getting their goods, but they're focused on the cost of goods. They're focused on how much meat costs. They're focused on what their checkbook looks like. And we've been working to address each of those issues in the supply chain from the beginning of this administration.
The remedies you guys have come up with are going to take some time to actually have an impact. to mean expediting commercial driver licenses for truck drivers, getting ports to 24/7 hours. This is going to potentially take some time. Is there any consideration that the president would declare a national emergency, have the military help with this kind of thing, or get money from the National Defense Fund to try to help these companies that are now having to work overtime hours with labor shortages?
We are continuing to press and look for ways that we can address the bottlenecks in the supply chain. And this is an important and vital step. We want to, of course, give the time to implement it, to your point, but we will continue to look for any additional steps we can take to ease the burden on families across the country.
And then if the president has also pointed to this situation as a good reason to pass the bipartisan hard infrastructure bill, why then did he not push for a vote on that bill when he had a chance a couple of weeks ago so that this time could be truncated a little bit?
Well, because you need the majority of people in Congress to vote for something in order to sign it into law. And also because as it relates to addressing a range of issues in our economy, as much as wages are up and unemployment is down, we also recognize there are longer term issues we want to address, including inflation. And that is something, while it is going to come down next year, and those are the predictions, the Build Back Better agenda, the president's economic agenda, will help bring that down. That is what 17 Nobel laureates have told us and have told all of you. So he wants his entire agenda passed, and that's what he thinks will be good for the economy long term. And you, of course, need the majority of votes in both Congresses to get that done. Go ahead.
It's sort of a summary of this. Presidents get blame or credit for a whole range of things that they may not have direct control over. Is there a sense in the White House here that the president could be blamed for a frustrating holiday season or shopping season if these goods don't flow? Is that an active concern that's motivating some of these steps?
Well, I think, Kelly, what's motivating some of these steps is the president wants to ensure the American people are able to order goods. They're able to get toys delivered to their home. They're able to go to the grocery store and be able to afford meat and any goods that they want. He understands, and we all understand, that daily costs, as much as wages have gone up, as much as unemployment has gone down, as much as a lot of progress has been made on the economy, he understands these are issues that are impacting people in their day-to-day lives. I also, in response to an earlier question, we can't overpromise here, and I'm not going to do that from here because there are a lot of issues in the global supply chain. We knew that from the first day. That's why he set up this task force. That's why this has been a top priority, and we've been attacking those issues one by one because we know they have different challenges and different solutions.